stroke whatever you want it to be about how to get an audience to buy from you. And I'm really excited to share this. It won't go any more than an hour. And I think this is an often underlooked piece that people need to be very much aware of. Because a lot of people, when they speak, they get up, they do their thing, and rightly so, they should do their thing. And often they underestimate the importance of understanding the psychology of the audience. And I think that's why I wanted to do this. So, no, it's not one of my more popular ones when I talk about how to make 20K from a speaking gig or how to get paid to speak. But I think this is equally important when we do these podcasts for you to also understand the psychology of why people buy. Why does an audience buy from an expert that speaks? Why would an audience take action, right? Think about yourselves. Why do you take action to part from money? And this is really one thing is undervalued or not talked about enough when it comes to experts that speak, for people to get on stage. And that's why I wanted to do an episode about this and share it with you. Now, of course, if you do need to leave early, that's okay. Just let me know and I'll hopefully get you a recording of this as well. So let's talk about it. Let's get into this. For those of you who do or don't know me, my name is Elliot Kay. I'm an author of 6 books. I'm writing my 7th book. I'm an international speaker, trainer. I work with entrepreneurs and experts that speak to help them truly stand out and be more giraffe. Hence that title. Now, of course, if you do also enjoy this, I do have a weekly newsletter, which is Influence, Insights, and Giraffes. So if you want to subscribe to that, please do. So let's get going. You know, I've done talks globally for over a decade. I've got paid to speak very handsomely. I speak to sell as well, and I've managed to do that very well. So I'm just going to share a few things with you today. Now, I'm more than happy for you to ask questions. So those of you who are tuning in live, please put your hand up, ask a question. I will bring you on stage, and I will be supporting you in any way I can and answering a question in any way I can, right? So let's talk about some key areas when it comes to getting an audience to buy. One of the key one is the lack of understanding of your audience, right? So the audience that you are currently standing in front of, virtually or none, it's the awareness of their journey in the buying process. What do I mean by that? When an audience comes to see you, they will come to see you at 1 of 3 stages. 1, they become aware of you. They're coming to check you out. Maybe buy from you, maybe not. 2, they've checked you out. They know about you and they're considering working with you. Number 3, right, is they're already considering working with you. So they will show up in one of those 3 buying processes or buying mindsets. Now, of course, can you take the audience from awareness to decision within the same talk? You can. Of course you can. But knowing, for example, if it's a completely cold audience and they've never heard about you, then really need to be focusing on the awareness, leading them somewhere so they consider buying you. Now, if they already know about you and you're a name, and a lot of you are in this room, then okay, how do you move them to consideration to decision? And then, of course, those who have heard about you and and they're just ready, showing up to buy, great. How do you move them to actually part from money? But what a lot of expert speakers underestimate is the importance of understanding those 3 key parts of the journey of an audience. A lot of them show up, go, well, I've got this product and they're going to buy from me. And they push onto the audience maybe a product or a service they're not ready for. Now, if you knew where the audience is, or you're at least you're aware of people in this different, they're in this different space as an audience, then you'll be able to tailor your talk, your language, your structure to lead the audience to buy better, right? To make a more informed decision because you're aware of the audience buying decision, their buying level. Now, of course, people will show up at different levels, but being aware of it is really important. Now, of course, within that, you've got to understand the audience's pain, right? Their problems, and how you are positioning your service to solve that pain and problem. And that's key. Now remember, today's about getting an audience to buy from you. So unless you can articulate back to them how you plug the gap, you solve the pain, your service is what they're looking for, then this is where a lot of speakers fall down, right? because they don't do the research. They don't ask the questions. So one of my clients, for example, contacted me recently, said, Ellie, I've been invited to speak in France. I'm like, fantastic. Who's the audience? What's their problem? What's their pain? She's like, oh, I didn't know. I didn't ask. I just know I've been invited to speak in France. Go ask those questions, people. Ask those questions before you're booked. Where are they? So you understand within the buying cycle, where are they? Have they had speakers like me before? Where are they? What's worked before? All these kind of things are really important for you to be able to tailor and therefore lead people to buy from them, right? So I wanted to start with that because I think it's really important, unless you have a pre-understanding of the audience, you have a pre-understanding of their pain, their problem, but also where they potentially are in the buying decision, then you might be losing out and leaving money on the table, right? So that's the first thing I wanted to cover. The second thing I want to talk about, and I'll go for quite a few things today because I really want to add value, and we'll go from there, is I think you all kind of inherently know this, but I just want to remind everybody about the importance of authenticity, right? It's incredibly important in this day and age to the audience, right, that you are showing up authentically. This is key, authentically, right? Because if you're not showing up authentically, then the audience can pick that up. And we don't want that, right? That will dent your buying decisions. Now, of course, you're probably listening to this going, but I am authentic, Elliot. I really am authentic. And I believe you. However, when we step up on stage, certain things happen to us, on purpose or not, that might throw authenticity. We might get the questions we don't want. Something happens. We're trying to sound like someone else. We're trying to sound like an expert. We're trying to be somebody we're not. So, for example, a key example of this is often a lot of speakers, I'm not saying anyone in this room, a lot of speakers try to sound like Tony Robbins. Now, there is only one Tony Robbins, right? And anyone trying to sound like him just doesn't sound right. That's inauthentic. Now, while the audience might love that, the speaker's being inauthentic. And we've actually evolved and changed since the pandemic. The people are looking for connection, authenticity. People are looking for that real person in front of them, especially if we want people to buy from them. If we want people to buy from them, then it's so important that we are authentic with it, right? So authenticity is incredibly important in this process. Be who you are, period. Maybe you're a bit quieter. Maybe you're an introvert. Maybe you're different from the perceived loud experts, but that's exactly why we're different. Not everybody wants a shouty expert. Not everybody wants a shouty speaker. Some people want the quiet, composed speaker. But magnifying who you really are is a massive part of the buying process. And if you're not doing that, then you're leaving money on the table because people don't want inauthentic speakers or experts to work with, period. They don't want that. What people want is authentic, real experts that can solve their problem that they feel like they can know, like, and trust. How are you doing, people? Give me a heart, give me a hello, give me this. Let me know you're with me, you're listening. I can see a few hearts popping up there. Lovely to see so many people joining us. Awesome. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And of course, I will be opening up for questions as well. So if you do have any questions, do feel free to put your hand up, join me on stage. And of course, if you have a contribution as well, I'd love to hear from you. This isn't just about me speaking. This is about you sharing your opinion as well or sharing your experience. So we've talked about the buying cycle, right? And we've talked about awareness, consideration, decision. Where are they in that cycle? And I've just talked about authenticity. That's so important when it comes down to getting an audience to buy from you, right? Authenticity. Now let's look at some of the other mistakes speakers make, and I'll talk about them as we go along, right? The other one, excuse me, frog in my throat there. The other thing that's really important, right, is a lot of speakers. Now, please remember this. We're talking about experts that speak, right? Now, in this day and age, there is so much information around. Think about it. We're all on LinkedIn. Think how many posts, how many articles, how many videos go up in a split second, right? So people don't need information. They don't need more information. What they need is application, right? And connection and direction. And one of the most important part you can do when getting an audience to buy from you is using storytelling, right? And a lot of speakers just convey information. They'll read slides, they'll just talk about their expertise without the use of storytelling. One of the greatest assets we have is the ability to tell stories. And if we ignore telling stories, you're leaving money on the table, right? Period. So what is really important as an expert that speak, are you integrating stories? Are you integrating the right stories? And are they stories that your audience connects with? Again, is your audience connecting to your stories? Because you could be telling a story that the audience doesn't connect with or isolates them or they can't relate. So it's about using the correct stories as well. All right. So I just want to talk about that. The other thing that I know gets in the way, and again, a lot of people do this, I mean, especially in Britain, not so much abroad when I've spoken in America, but definitely in Britain, there's the element of the lack, we're not so forward-coming with our credibility, with our authority, with our expertise. And I've never really understood that, because if we're standing on stage, we're standing on stage because we're an expert. We've worked really, really hard for that. And a lot of people, especially in Britain, I'm not saying elsewhere, have a real issue with coming forwards going, I've written 6 books, I'm on my 7th book, I've won this award, this award, this award. Now, it isn't boastful. It's about credibility and trust. Now, would you spend money with anyone that's not credible and trustworthy? Of course, the answer is no. So the fact you're on stage, you still have to establish that credibility and trust, period, right? That is a massive, and I see a lot of speakers time and time again who don't put their credibility and trust into the talk up front. Therefore, I know that I can trust you. And then you develop the know, like, and trust factor as you speak. But credibility and trust has to form part of it, just like storytelling has to form part of it, right? I've talked about information overload. The other one that I want to mention shortly, and I'll pause for a second and let anyone, if they want to ask any questions, is the not addressing. I'll bring you up now and then just wait for a second. But welcome on stage, so to speak, the virtual stage. Just hold on a second, Ella. Hold on. Let me finish my next point and then I'll come to your question. So his thing, again, I've noticed this. I work with speakers all the time. I work on structures, delivery, impact, is you are not pre-injecting the objections that your audience might have. So they do a great talk or a great speech or a great presentation, whatever we want to call it today, and you don't pre-address objections. And if you don't pre-address objections within your talk, now remember, today's about getting an audience to buy from you. As a buyer, they're all going to have objections, right? They're all going to have objections, period. So what you want to really do throughout your talk is insert the objections. Now, there's various tools and techniques to do that in a way that it's not in people's faces. Some speakers put it in people's faces. It's up to you on your authentic style. But if you're not pre-addressing objections throughout your talk, again, it can hamper the ability for your audience to buy. This is all about influencing your audience to buy from you, right? And these are key areas. So if, for example, the 3 biggest objections you'll always get: time, money, will this work for me? Generally, that's not just as a speaker, right? You always get, do I have time for this? Do I have the money for this? And will what you're offering work for me? Regardless if it's a software, a coaching, or a service, whatever it might be, those are the 3 key objections. They have to, keyword have to, be addressed within your talk. Whether you address them within your talk through stories or whether you address them through case studies, right? There's various ways to do it, but they have to be addressed, because otherwise you're not going to be influencing your audience to buy from you, right? And that's key. So I'll stop there and I'll welcome Ella. Hi, Ella. Welcome to the stage. Let's hear what your question is. Oh, 1 second. I just realized something. 1 second there, Ella. Speak again. Go for it.
Thank you very much, Elliot. Thank you for letting me speak. And it's really good to meet you, because I just came across you on LinkedIn yesterday.
So yeah, you did. Hi, lovely to meet you. Yep.
selling your offers or promoting your offers. So on the personal side of your storytelling, balanced out with, well, actually, these are the three key points I'm making to you in order to sell what I'm good at.
Absolutely, absolutely. I get that a lot. How do you have the balance between being authentic and selling, right? And especially when you're an expert that speaks. The key is, when it comes down to it, is choosing the stories, for example, that address the audience's objections, but they're heartfelt stories, they're real stories, they're not pretend stories. You see this a lot when you see a lot of speakers come out of certain people's trainings, and they're just regurgitating other people's stories or stories they've been told to tell. So it's about the stories you use to help handle objections. Now, stories is a great way to sell you, period. So if you tell the right stories that create the connection, that address the objection, the audience will buy into you. If you're authentic, the audience will buy into you. So I find what happens is there's a lot of speakers either are authentic and great and they're passionate, they don't sell, or you get the speakers that are too harsh on selling. The way you balance that out is by having a structure that magnifies your authenticity, but also is designed to lead an audience to buy. And that's definitely something we do. And we have certain structures that do that. But it's also, what is your intention for speaking, right? And if you put the intention behind it, my intention is to serve, and it's sales through service, for example, and that comes across, people will buy into you. They just will. But it's also not apologizing for having or for wanting to sell or promote. And that's the other thing I see from a lot of speakers and experts that speak, is this is an apologetic energy, like, oh, sorry, I've got to sell now. Oh, I hate this part, right? And it's a natural extension of a relationship. It's how you take people to the next level. It's how you serve them, right? And that's really key when it comes down to it. So to your question, using the appropriate stories to help handle objections, and of course to magnify your authenticity, is a key. Having that unapologetic but not forceful approach to understanding you need to sell is another part of it. And having a structure that magnifies your authenticity but also leads the audience to a buying decision is really important as well. Does that help?
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I'm making notes as you're speaking there, Elliot. So thank you very much for that.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome to stay up here and keep me company, or you can jump back to the audience. It's really up to you. We'll call this a LinkedIn virtual stage hug.
Lovely. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Ella. Great question. And of course, if you do have any questions, feel free to put your hand up. I'll gladly do that. If you're listening to the replay or watching this elsewhere, just drop me a message through the normal channels. And if I can support beyond this recording, this session, then please do reach out. I can help you with structure. I can help you with delivery. We are doing speaker audits right now at a special price. So just reach out to me, send me a message, and we will gladly send you the information for that as well. Right. So we've talked about authenticity. You can see how important that is. We talked about pre-addressing objections. That's so important. We talked about storytelling. The other thing I want to talk about to get an audience to buy from you, right, is if you're not engaging the audience as you speak, they're unlikely to buy from you, right? If you're having a whale of the time up there, but they're not connected to you, they're not engaged, then you're losing out, and people aren't going to buy from you. So engagement is key. Remember, I talked about people want implementation, not information. They also want engagement. They want to feel part of the conversation. They want to feel like you're pulling them in, you're taking them with them, not standing on stage like, look at me, I'm so great. And you're isolating them, or you're looking down at them, or you're so blessed to be part of my journey. Look at me, I'm on stage. People don't want that, period. No one likes it. I know there's speakers that do that, and they sometimes get great results, but it's not lasting. There has no longevity to it, right? To their brand, to their authenticity. Those are the speakers that end up with really bad reputations. Engage the audience, make them part of the conversation. Again, there's tools and techniques to do that, but making them involved, that is really important if you want people to buy from you. And when we're talking about involvement, it's also about consistent messaging and not too many models, right? So throughout your presentation, have one key message that they take away, one key message that they can remember, one key message that they resonate with. But what happens is a lot of us try to overload it with messaging, and then for it backfires, or people just don't remember anything. one of our speakers, one of the speakers of the year that I have the pleasure to work with, Jazz, she talks about being 10% braver. I talk about being more giraffe. I know someone talks about be more rad, then be more avocado. I know a speaker that talks about being less shit, right? I'm not saying that's their style, right? So it's all about having that kind of consistent messaging, and you build your talk around that. I know it's quite funny, right? Talk around that. But what is the if it's inconsistent, it creates cognitive distrust, right? So people don't trust you if you're inconsistent, even if it's slightly, um, like a tiny thing, it creates a little bit of distrust, right? So remember, consistent messaging, engagement. And another key thing is how you structure your offer is really important. Now, everybody remembers the whole comedian's line, computer says no, right? Everyone remembers that. Computer says no. Now, confused mind is that if your offer, even if you've done a great presentation and you've engaged people and your messaging's been consistent, if your offer isn't easy to follow, if your offer is confusing, people don't buy. They just don't. So, what's really important when you're structuring your offer is to make it the most simplistic offer to follow. Now, I know people talk about, burning the price in, stacking, then dropping the price. It depends where you're speaking, what you're speaking about. But if that isn't done well, then it confuses an audience, they don't buy. If your offer isn't clear, it'll confuse the audience and they won't buy. So, what's really important when it comes to your offer, when it comes to that part of the presentation, that it's really easy to say yes. Make it easy for people to say yes, right? That is key. Think about the talks you've done. Have you made it easy for buy? Have you made it easy for people to buy from you? Have you made it easy for people to want to go to the next level with you? If the answer is yes, great. That's a good reminder. But if you're like, I don't get consistent results, I don't get that, it's the chances are that you haven't structured your offer in a way that's easy to understand. Now, if you do the talk right, by the way, and you do your whole presentation right, talk, delivery, engagement, storytelling, consistent, then the section that you're selling towards the end is the last bit of the cake, right? It's the cream on the cake. You've done the hard work. It's not a separate section. And please understand that you're always selling. Period. You're always selling as a speaker, whether you get paid to speak or whether you're speaking to win over audience, and you're always selling. So don't see it as a separate section. It is a part of it. It's a big part of it. But you have to understand that if you're not clear, don't expect because you've done a presentation for people to jump out the seat going, "How do I work with you? I want to work with you." I mean, I must have delivered, I don't know, over 10,000 hours of talks now. And in my whole period of doing that, I've had two people that literally halfway through the presentation have gone, "Yes, I'm in. Here's my card," right? Those are rarity. You've got to structure it with clarity. If it's not clear, you don't buy. Think about when you buy. Do you buy if you don't quite get what you're buying? Of course, the answer's no. So you've got to have clarity when it comes to the positioning of your talk. Now, again, if I can help with any of this, reach out to me. As I say, I'm doing speaker audits where we get together for 45 minutes. I can look at your talk, help you how to tweak it. Send me a message on LinkedIn or send me a message on the channel you're watching this on, and I will give you the details for that. So just want you to know that I can support you with this and help you with this, right? So how are we doing, people? Are we all right? A few more things to go and we'll wrap this up. I just want to make sure that you understand what gets an audience to buy. We've talked about overloading information. We talked about lacking authenticity. We talked about inconsistent messaging. We've talked about lack of engagement. These are all the mistakes people make, right? Information overload. We talk about not understanding the buyer's journey, right? Where are they when they've come to see you, right? Now, by the way, about the buyer's journey, I want to say this. I'll never forget that I've been a trainer as well, a speaker trainer for over a decade. I've worked internationally. And I remember speaking to very early on one of my mentors, and they said to me, "You got to understand that the sale happens before they've come to the room. So if you want people to arrive in your room more on the decision, then it's important that whatever channels you're around or you choose to use, that they will see you and already go through the awareness and consideration process. So by the time they're seeing you, they're deciding to work with you. And that's all marketing. That's basically all marketing, right? It's all about your marketing. It's all about your presence. It's about your positioning. It's about the videos they're going to see. It's about many things that lead to that moment. So when they've come to see you for that 45 minutes talk, they're like, yes, I'm going to work with Nicola. I'm going to work with Yvonne. I'm going to work with Gia, right? I'm going to work with Arpit because they've already gone through that process. Yeah. So please remember that. So I'm going to give you some quick 12 pointers and then we'll wrap this up, right? So how are we doing? Give me some hearts. Give me some love, people. Let me know you're with me. You're with me. I can see 1, 2. I'm seeing the hearts go up. Yes, yes, yes. Woohoo. Lots of hearts coming up. I love it. Yay. Keep the hearts coming, people. Keep the hearts coming. Give me some love here. All right, here we go. So just to conclude this, got to understand your audience. Understand their pain, their problems, and how you communicate that, your service and everything like that. Understand where they are with their buying process, right? Make it clear and easy for them to buy. Use storytelling, period. Use storytelling to help engage. Use engagement. Build the credibility and trust, right? Address potential objections throughout the talk. Don't wait till the end to address them. Throughout it, make sure your call to action is compelling, that they want to say yes and they want to go ahead with you and they want to do more with you. Be consistent with your messaging as well. And more important than anything, we talked about at the beginning, is be authentic. Period. Be authentic. One of the biggest things you can be is really you, but authentic you also is happy to sell and promote. The authentic you is happy to do more and support, but is understanding that the audience is going to buy from them. You're on stage because you want to be of service, but you're equally okay with asking for the business. Because if you don't, someone else will. Period. So I'm going to open up the floor for any questions you might have right now, and then we'll start to take it from there. So what questions do you have that I can answer you today